The deserted outpost stood in silence, surrounded by endless gray rocks and cold blue skies. Wind moved across the empty land like a quiet whisper, carrying dust from one corner of the valley to another. Nothing lived here, nothing except a small alien child named Lyra. Lyra had lived alone for many years, though she did not know exactly how many. Time felt strange on this planet. Days were long, nights were longer, and loneliness seemed to stretch forever. She lived inside a broken shelter made of metal plates and old wires. Her parents had built it quickly before they left. They told her they would return soon. They promised, but they never came back. Every morning, Lyra opened her eyes with the same hope, maybe today. And every night, she went to sleep with the same fear, maybe never. She kept one small object close to her heart, a silver device her parents left behind. It was shaped like a stone, but soft light pulsed from inside it every few months. Lyra believed it meant her parents were trying to reach her. She did not understand the device, but she protected it as if it were her last piece of family. Her days were quiet, but never peaceful. Strange sounds often echoed through the valley, low growls from unseen creatures, the rumble of distant storms, or the metallic cracking of the outpost walls shifting in the cold. Sometimes she thought someone was watching her. Sometimes she felt eyes following her when she walked to the water stream. But whenever she turned, there was nothing there. Only shadows. To survive, Lyra gathered fruits from sharp-leafed plants and caught small glowing insects for heat. She had become careful, silent, and strong in her own small way. But she was still just a child, thin, tired, and longing for a voice other than her own. Every sunset, she climbed a tall rock and stared at the sky. Her planet's sun was a deep purple, and when it dipped behind the mountains, stars filled the sky like cold silver dust. Lyra watched the stars the way other children might watch fireworks, filled with wonder and hope. She believed her parents were somewhere out there among those stars, flying back to her. "Please come," she whispered to the sky. One evening, a storm began without warning. Dark clouds twisted above. Lightning flashed in colors she had never seen before: red, blue, and green. The ground vibrated under her feet. She ran inside the shelter and held the silver device tightly in both hands. The light inside it blinked. Once, then again. For a moment, Lyra's heart lifted. Were they finally coming? But the blinking stopped. The device became silent again, as if teasing her with hope, only to take it away. Tears filled her large golden eyes. She wiped them quickly. Crying never helped. Crying only made the nights longer. When the storm passed, the world outside smelled of burnt air and wet stone. Lyra stepped out carefully. The sky was clearing, and the stars were bright again. But something felt different. She couldn't explain. A strange energy hung in the air, like the world was holding its breath. As she walked across the valley, she heard a noise, a sharp metallic click. She froze. Her heart raced. She listened carefully. There it was again, a sound she had never heard before on this planet. A sound that did not belong here. She looked around. The shadows seemed to shift. The wind carried a faint hum, almost like an engine. Lyra felt fear, but she also felt a spark of hope. Maybe someone was out there. Maybe someone had finally come. She climbed onto her usual rock and scanned the sky. Nothing. No ships. No lights. Just darkness. Then suddenly, far away on the horizon, a tiny white flash appeared. It was small, but bright enough to catch her eye. It grew larger, slowly, like a falling star descending toward the planet. Lyra's breath stopped. Her heart pounded. Was it her parents' ship? Or was it something else entirely? She did not know. But for the first time in years, something new was happening. Something that could change everything. And she wasn't ready. She wasn't prepared. But she hoped. She hoped with all the strength she had left that whoever was coming would not leave her behind too. The white flash in the sky disappeared behind the mountains, but its glow stayed in Lyra's mind long after the darkness returned. She climbed down from the rock with shaking hands. Her heart was full of questions. She had waited years to ask someone, anyone. But the valley around her remained silent, the same cold and empty world she had always known. The next morning, Lyra woke early. She barely slept the night before, her mind replaying the strange light again and again. As the purple sun rose, she stepped outside the shelter and looked toward the mountains. Nothing moved, not the rocks, not the sky, not even the wind. The world felt frozen, almost like it was waiting for something. Lyra gathered her small basket and walked toward the water stream. Her steps were soft and careful. She always listened closely for danger. The creatures on this planet were not friendly. Some hunted by sound, others by movement. Lyra had learned over the years how to move quietly, how to hide, how to run when she must. But today, she felt different. A strange excitement filled her chest. The flash of light had broken the endless days of waiting. It was like a small crack in the wall of loneliness that surrounded her. When she reached the stream, she dipped her hands into the cold water. Her reflection stared back, thin face, golden eyes, small blue markings on her cheeks. She looked older than she felt. Years of surviving alone had carved worry into her expression. Suddenly, a loud thump shook the ground. Water rippled. Birds, hiding in the cliffs, flew into the sky with frightened cries. Lyra jumped back. Another thump came. Closer this time, her heartbeat raced. She crouched behind a rock and listened. The sound was heavy and slow, like huge footsteps. But no creature on this planet ever walked like that. Is something coming from the mountains? Could it be the thing that fell from the sky? Curiosity pushed her to peek from behind the rock. The valley ahead stretched far into the distance, empty and open. Nothing moved. The footsteps stopped. The silence afterward felt too deep, too unnatural-like. The planet was holding its breath, the same way she was. A chill ran down her spine. She returned to her shelter quickly, keeping low and moving fast. Once inside, she pushed a metal crate against the door and sat on the floor, hugging her knees. She took out the silver device again. Its surface was smooth and warm. She waited to see if it would glow, blink, or react in any way, but it stayed dark. Sometimes she whispered to it, believing it could hear her somehow. "If it is my parents, please let me know, please." But the device remained silent. Hours passed. The purple light outside slowly turned into orange dusk. Lyra stepped out, listening again for the strange footsteps. Nothing, only the soft wind brushed across the valley. She walked toward her usual lookout rock. The air smelled different today, like metal and burned dust, something that did not belong to this planet. When she climbed the rock, she froze out far in the distance. Across the flat land, she saw something new, something she had never seen before. Long black mark cut across the ground, stretching almost half a mile. Smoke rose from the end of it. Rocks were cracked, sand melted into glass. It looked like a crash site. Her breath caught in her throat. Someone or something had landed on her silent planet. She wanted to run toward it. She wanted to see who had arrived, but fear held her back. What if it was dangerous? What if it was a creature worse than anything she had ever faced? Lyra climbed down slowly, her small feet slipping on the rock. She returned to her shelter and waited as night took over the valley. The stars appeared one by one, shining bright against the black sky. She stared at them for a long time. Her parents were somewhere out there, she believed. But the light she saw falling yesterday, it did not look like their ship. Their ship had golden thrusters, soft and warm, not cold white like the falling star she witnessed. Still, she whispered into the night, "I am still here, if someone can hear me." The wind answered, carrying her voice away. Then softly, faintly, another sound drifted across the valley. Not wind, not storm, not creature. A low hum. Mechanical. Unfamiliar. Alien. But not like her people. And in that moment, without knowing it, Lyra's life began to change. The silent planet was no longer silent. Someone had arrived, someone who would break the loneliness she had lived with for so many years, someone who would rewrite her fate forever. The hum grew louder as night deepened over the silent planet. Lyra sat inside her shelter, holding her breath. She had heard storms, beasts, and shifting rocks before, but the sound was different. It was steady, controlled, almost purposeful. A machine, a ship, a visitor. Fear and curiosity pulled her in two different directions. Her heart told her to hide. Her hope pushed her to look. After several minutes of waiting, she finally stepped outside. The purple moon cast long shadows across the valley, turning the rocks into tall, dark shapes. She wrapped her thin arms around herself, trying to keep warm as she followed the distant hum. Her feet moved quietly over the cold ground. When she reached her lookout rock, the sound grew clearer. She climbed to the top and saw something glowing far across the valley. White lights moving slowly in the darkness. A ship, but not one she recognized. It was smaller than her parents' ship, shaped like a long metal arrow. Blue lights flickered along its sides, and smoke drifted from its engines. The ship hovered for a moment, scanning the land below, then lowered itself onto the ground with a gentle hiss. Lyra's breath trembled. Her body felt frozen. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, someone arriving, someone finding her, but she never imagined it like this. Not this shape, not this color, not this feeling. The ship door opened. A bright light shone from inside, and a figure stepped out. Lyra's eyes widened. The shape was tall, broad, and dressed in strange armor. The figure turned slowly, scanning the area with a handheld device that blinked green. It wasn't an alien like her. It wasn't her people. It was human. But Lyra didn't know that word yet. To her, it was simply someone different. Someone unknown. Someone dangerous or kind, she didn't know which. The human took a few careful steps onto the rocky ground. He removed his helmet, and for the first time, fresh air touched his face. His brown hair blew softly in the wind. His eyes scanned the dark valley with concern, not aggression. His name was Captain Aaron Halley. Aaron had come on a mission to explore abandoned colonies and lost stations. He expected ruins, silence, and old technology, nothing more. But when he looked around, he noticed something strange. Small footprints, not animal prints, not adult prints. Child size. He crouched down and touched the ground. What is this? He whispered. Lyra watched from behind a boulder, her heart beating wildly. She wanted to run. She wanted to stay. She wanted to shout for help. She wanted to disappear. Her mind tangled in fear and hope all at once. Aaron walked slowly, scanning the area. He saw a piece of cloth stuck on a sharp rock. A child's toy, half buried in dust. A drawing scratched into the ground, faded but still visible. A small creature with big eyes. Standing next to two taller figures, a family. Aaron's chest tightened. There was someone here, he murmured. Maybe someone still is. He followed the trail toward Lyra's shelter. Lyra gasped quietly and pressed herself against the rock. She didn't mean to leave clues, but loneliness had made her careless. She didn't know how to hide from humans. She didn't even know what a human was. Aaron approached the metal shelter. He lifted his scanner, and it flashed red. Life form detected, the device said in a robotic voice. Lyra panicked. She crawled backward, trying to escape through a small opening behind the shelter. But her foot slipped, hitting a loose stone. The noise echoed in the quiet night. Aaron froze. He turned slowly toward the sound. Hello? He called gently, lowering his weapon. It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. Lyra's breathing grew fast and shaky. She pressed her hands over her mouth. Aaron stepped closer, speaking softly. "If someone is here, I want to help. Please don't be afraid." The moonlight shifted, revealing a small shape behind the shelter. Aaron narrowed his eyes and saw movement, a trembling shadow. He crouched down and extended his hand. "Hey, it's all right. I promise." Lyra peeked out. Her golden eyes met his brown ones for the first time. For a moment, the whole world stopped. The storms, the silence, the loneliness, the fear, everything paused. Irin whispered, barely believing his own eyes. "A child. How long have you been here?" Lyra didn't understand his words, but she felt something she had not felt in years. Warmth, not from the sun. Not from fire, from someone who had come from the sky. Someone who might not leave her behind. Still shaking, she spoke in her soft, broken voice. "Did my parents send you?" And Aaron, stunned and heartbroken, realized this child had a story far deeper and far sadder than he imagined. This was the moment their lives crossed. This was the moment her lonely world began to change. This was the moment her fate started to be reforged. For a long moment, neither Lyra nor Captain Aaron moved. The cold night air wrapped around them, carrying silence across the valley. Aaron kept his hand lowered, showing he meant no harm. Lyra's golden eyes stayed wide, filled with fear, but also a small spark of hope. Ajar spoke softly, the way someone speaks to a frightened animal. "It's all right. I'm here to help." Lyra didn't understand his language, but she understood tone. She sensed no anger in his voice, no danger in his eyes. Still, she stayed partly hidden behind the broken wall of her shelter. Aaron slowly placed his scanner on the ground. Then he removed the small weapon holstered to his side and set it down too. He lifted his empty hands to show he carried no threat. Lyra blinked. No creature she had seen on this planet ever lowered itself this way. No storm ever paused for her. No shadow ever showed mercy. This human was different. She stepped out just a little. Aaron's breath caught. Up close, she looked even younger. Then he thought thin arms, tired face, and strange blue markings on her cheeks. Her clothes were torn, her hair tangled, but she stood with a quiet strength only survival could give. "You're safe," he whispered. Lyra's voice cracked as she repeated her question, struggling to form words she barely remembered. "Did my parents send you?" Aaron's heart tightened painfully. He had no idea where her parents were. He had no idea if they were alive, but he already suspected the truth. A truth too cruel for a child to hear. "I don't know," he said. Honestly, gently shaking his head, Lyra's face fell. For a second, she looked smaller than before, almost fragile. She stepped backward, hugging her arms around herself. Aaron quickly raised a hand. "Wait, please. I won't hurt you. I promise." She studied him carefully. She had learned to read danger in every movement, every breath. And this strange man showed nothing but concern. Slowly, she stepped closer again. Aaron reached into his pocket and took out a small food pack. He unwrapped it and placed it on the ground between them. Then he backed away several steps. The meaning was clear. "This is for you." Lyra stared at the food. She sniffed the air. Hunger gnawed inside her, real, painful hunger. She hadn't eaten well in days. After a long hesitation, she crawled forward, took the pack, and sat on the ground to eat. She ate fast, like someone who had long forgotten what it meant to be full. Aaron watched with a heavy heart. "How long has she been alone?" he whispered to himself. When she finished, Lyra wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. For the first time, she looked up at him not with fear, but with curiosity. She touched the middle of her chest. "Lyra," she said quietly. Her name, Aaron smiled softly and pointed to himself. "Aaron, She repeated it carefully. RN. He nodded. She tilted her head, fascinated. She had never spoken to anyone in years. The sound of a voice, another voice, felt strange and beautiful at the same time. Erin slowly approached the shelter. Trying not to frighten her, she followed behind him, small and cautious. When he reached the doorway, he stopped, respecting her space. May I look inside? Lyra hesitated, then nodded once. Inside, Erin saw the life she had built. A small bed made of cloth and leaves, a pile of glowing stones for warmth, a crude drawing of her parents scratched onto metal. But the object that caught his attention the most was the silver device placed carefully in the center of the shelter. What is this? He whispered. Lyra rushed forward and grabbed it protectively. Parents, she said. For them, they come. Erin's heart sank. He could see the device was not a beacon. It resembled an emergency signal, but not one used for rescue. His eyes narrowed as he studied it. Something felt wrong. He sat on the floor to examine it more closely. Lyra sat across from him, watching every move. Your parents left you this? He asked softly. She nodded. And you've been waiting for them all this time? Another nod. Rin inhaled deeply. It hurt to imagine a child waiting years for people who might never return. He wanted to tell her the truth, but he couldn't. Not now. Not on this cold night. Not when she was finally trusting him. Instead, he looked at her with gentle eyes. Lyra, I'll help you, I promise. Her eyes softened. No one had spoken to her like that in years. No one had offered help, or safety, or warmth. For the first time, a strange feeling spread through her chest. Not fear, not hunger, but something like comfort. Outside, the planet grew silent again. But it was a different silence now, not empty, not lonely. A human had stepped into her life. A human who didn't run from her. A human who cared. This was their first contact, and neither of them knew it yet. But it was only the beginning of the bond that would change everything. Morning light slowly filled the valley, painting the rocks in soft golden colors. Lyra opened her eyes and blinked at the brightness. For the first time in years, she did not wake alone. Outside her shelter, Captain Rin was already awake, studying maps on a small digital screen. His ship rested in the distance like a silent guardian. Lyra watched him quietly. She wasn't used to seeing another living being nearby. It felt strange, but not unwelcome. Rin noticed her and smiled. Good morning, Lyra. She didn't understand the words, but his warm tone made her relax. She stepped outside, holding her silver device close to her chest. As she always did, Rin pointed to the sky, then to her, then to the ground. You lived here a long time? Lyra hesitated, then nodded slowly. Rin looked around the valley. With worry, you survived all this. Alone? She didn't know what he said, but she understood his expression. She lowered her head. Being alone was her whole life. It felt normal to her, even though it shouldn't have. Rin opened a small packet of food and offered it to her. Lyra accepted it with both hands, her eyes shining. She whispered a small thank you in her own language. Rin didn't understand the words, but he felt the meaning. After she finished eating, Rin pulled out a small holoslate with images. He pointed at objects and said their names slowly. Ship, food, water, friend. Lyra repeated each word carefully. Her voice was soft but eager to learn. Then Rin pointed at himself. Friend. Lyra stared at him for a moment. The word felt new and warm. She pointed at him, copying gently. Friend. Rin nodded with a smile. Yes, friend. A tiny spark of trust formed between them, small at first, but strong enough to grow. Later that day, Rin walked around the outpost to understand how Lyra survived. She followed him like a quiet shadow, curious about everything he touched. He repaired broken panels, adjusted wires, and tested the energy source. Lyra watched in amazement. Machines that had been dead for years hummed back to life under his hands. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the shelter felt warm again. She tapped his arm. Magic? Aaron laughed softly. Not magic. Technology, Lyra repeated the word slowly. Low-G. He nodded proudly. Yes, her eyes sparkled. She had never seen anyone fix anything before. When things broke, they stayed broken. When food ran out, she found more. When storms came, she hid. That was her life. But Aaron, this human, changed things simply by being here. As the day passed, Lyra grew more comfortable around him. She followed him to the water stream and pointed out safe places to walk. When he nearly stepped on a hidden thorn plant, she grabbed his arm and pulled him back. He blinked in surprise, then laughed. Thank you, Lyra. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the feeling. Protecting someone felt nice. For years, no one had protected her. Now she wanted to protect him. Aaron sat by the stream and looked at her carefully. Lyra, your parents, they left you this device, right? She nodded, holding the silver object tightly. Rin gently asked, do you know what it does? She shook her head. Blink means they come. Aaron stared at the device with troubled eyes. He had scanned it earlier while she slept. It wasn't a beacon. It wasn't a rescue signal. It was a warning device, used to alert others of danger. Why would parents give such a device to a child, unless something terrible happened? He didn't know how to tell her. Not yet. Instead, he placed a hand over hers. Lyra, I'll help you understand. I'll keep you safe. Her eyes softened. This time, she did understand. Safe, help, friend. She whispered the new word slowly. Safe. Aaron, the human, felt his chest tighten. He hadn't expected to care this quickly, but seeing her alone, hungry, terrified, it awakened something inside him. Human compassion, human responsibility, human heart. He couldn't walk away now. He wouldn't. That night, Lyra sat near the shelter's door and watched Aaron examine the strange black mark across the valley, the crash site from before his arrival. What happened out there? He murmured to himself. Lyra leaned closer, curious. Danger? She asked, trying the new word. Ryan paused. He didn't want to frighten her, but honesty mattered. Maybe, but I'm here now. She took comfort in his presence. For the first time in her life, she did not fear the darkness. The silent planet felt less empty, less cold, because she wasn't alone anymore. And Aaron didn't just protect her for the moment. He had already decided something deep in his heart. He would not leave this child behind. He would not repeat the cruelty she had already suffered. He would change her future. This bond, born in a silent valley under a purple sky, was the beginning of a new destiny. A destiny neither of them could yet see, but one that would soon reshape both their lives forever. Night settled over the planet like a cold blanket. The wind whispered across the valley, carrying the smell of dust and metal. Lyra slept lightly inside the shelter, curled up with her silver device held close to her chest. But Aaron didn't sleep. Not tonight. He walked slowly around the outpost, scanning the ground with his handheld device. Something about this planet felt wrong. Too quiet. Too empty. Too abandoned. The footprints, the broken structures, the strange warning device Lyra kept, none of it matched the records he studied before coming here. According to old files, this colony had been home to a small alien family. Lyra's family. They were explorers, not soldiers. They shouldn't have disappeared without a trace. Aaron crouched beside a rusted metal panel half buried in sand. He brushed the dirt away with his glove and found an access port. He connected his scanner to it and waited for the data to load. The screen flashed. Encrypted logs detected. Date, many years ago. Category, evacuation order. Aaron frowned. Evacuation? Why and where are the rescue reports? He pressed another button, and the log began to play. The sound was weak and broken, but a voice came through Lyra's mother. "We cannot wait any longer," she said, her voice full of panic. "The threat is approaching. We must leave immediately." Aaron leaned closer, eyes narrowing. The voice cut out, then returned. "We leave the child in the shelter. She is weak. She slows us down. We will return if we survive." Aaron felt a sharp pain in his chest. He replayed the line, "She slows us down." His jaw tightened with anger. They didn't leave because they were forced. They didn't leave because they lost her. They left because they abandoned her, on purpose. Aaron stood up, breathing hard. How could they do this to a child? He looked back at the shelter. Through the broken wall, he could see Lyra sleeping peacefully, trusting him, depending on him, believing her parents loved her. He pressed his hand to his forehead. This truth was too cruel. He couldn't tell her. Not now, maybe not ever. As he walked back, something moved behind the rocks. A low growl echoed across the valley. Aaron froze and raised his flashlight. Two glowing eyes stared at him from the dark. Beast, one of the planet's predators, slowly crawled forward. Its skin was rough and gray, its teeth long and sharp. Aaron reached for his weapon, but the creature jumped faster than he expected. Aaron rolled aside just in time. The beast crashed into a metal plate, sending dust into the air. Aaron fired a shot, but the weapon only stunned it for a second. The creature shook its head and charged again, inside the shelter. Lyra's eyes shot open. She heard the noise. She heard Aaron shouting. She grabbed her device and ran outside. Aaron stumbled back as the beast lunged. His foot slipped on loose gravel, and he fell hard onto the ground. The creature opened its jaws, ready to strike Lyra. Screamed. The sound echoed sharply across the valley. The beast turned its head toward her. Aaron's eyes widened in fear. "No, Lyra, stay back." But she didn't run. She stood still, trembling but brave, holding her silver device tightly. The slow blinking light inside it suddenly pulsed brightly, as if reacting to danger. The beast hesitated, confused by the strange light. Aaron took his chance. He fired again, this time hitting the creature's side. It shrieked and ran into the dark, disappearing between the rocks. Silence returned. Aaron rushed to Lyra and dropped to his knees. "Are you okay?" Lyra did. "It hurt you." Lyra shook her head quickly. She was shaking, but unharmed. Aaron pulled her into a careful embrace. She stiffened at first. She wasn't used to being held, but then slowly relaxed. His warmth felt safe. "You saved me," Aaron whispered, amazed. She didn't understand the words, but she saw the emotion in his face. She pointed at his heart. "Friend." "Safe." Her voice was soft but full of meaning. Aaron swallowed hard. The child who had been abandoned, forgotten, left alone for years, had risked herself to protect him. He hugged her a little tighter. "You're not weak," he said. "You never were." Lyra blinked in confusion, but she smiled gently. Aaron looked at the silver device again. The light slowly faded back to normal, whatever danger her parents feared. It was still out there, but Aaron made a promise in that moment. A silent vow deep inside his human heart. He would not leave her behind. He would not turn away. He would face whatever threat came, because Lyra was no longer just a mission. No longer a mystery. She was a child who deserved a future. A future he would fight to protect. The dark secret of her past was revealed. Now her new fate was ready to begin. Dawn broke slowly over the planet, painting the sky with soft purple and silver light. Lyra stood beside the shelter, watching the horizon with tired but peaceful eyes. The events of the night still echoed in her mind. Aaron fighting the beast. The dangerous growl, her own scream, the bright pulse of her device. But most of all, she remembered Aaron holding her like someone who cared. Inside the shelter, Aaron was repairing his equipment. But his mind wasn't on the tools. It was on Lyra, on her parents' message, on the truth that weighed on him like a heavy stone. They left her. They abandoned her, not by accident. Not by force, not by choice. Aaron rubbed his forehead and exhaled. Hard. Lyra deserved love, safety, and truth, but not truth that would break her heart. Not yet. He stepped outside. Lyra turned to him immediately, her face brightening. She pointed at the rising sun. Morning. Friend Aaron. He couldn't help smiling. Good morning, Lyra. She didn't understand the words perfectly, but she understood the warmth. I kneeled beside her. Lyra. There is something we must do. Something important. She tilted her head. Important? He nodded. He pointed toward his ship in the distance, then looked into her eyes. I want to take you with me. Lyra blinked. She looked at the ship. Then at the valley she had lived in for years. Then at the sky where she believed her parents were still traveling. Her small voice trembled. But parents come. Device blink. They come. Aaron's heart tightened. He gently took her hands. Lyra, your parents. He stopped. He couldn't tell her the full truth. Not yet, but he could tell her what mattered most. They are not coming back. Not anymore. Lyra's breath caught. The world around her seemed to go quiet. Her fingers tightened around the silver device. No, she whispered. They come. They promise. Aaron pulled her into a gentle embrace. She froze, then slowly collapsed into his arms, shaking softly. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. For a long time, she cried silently, tears she had kept inside for years finally falling. Aaron held her carefully, as if protecting something fragile and precious. When she finally pulled away, her golden eyes were full of questions, pain and confusion. Why? Leave Lyra? Aaron swallowed hard. I don't know. But what I do know is this. He placed his hand over her device. You don't have to wait anymore. Then he placed his hand gently over her heart. And you don't have to be alone anymore. Lyra looked at his hand, then at his face. Something deep inside her shifted. The heavy weight she had carried for so long. The endless waiting. The lonely nights. All of it began to loosen. She whispered. Aaron. Stay? He nodded. Yes, I'll stay. And I'll take you somewhere safe. To people who will care for you. To a life where you can grow. Lyra hesitated only a moment longer. Then she said the words that sealed her new fate. I go, with friend Aaron. They walked toward the ship together. Lyra held his hand tightly, afraid she might lose him too. But Aaron squeezed back gently, promising silently that he would not disappear. Inside the ship, Lyra looked around with wide eyes. She touched the smooth walls, the glowing screens, the padded seat. This was nothing like her tiny shelter. This felt alive. Arin helped her sit and strapped her in. Ready? She nodded nervously. The engines hummed, sending vibrations through the floor. Dust swirled outside as the ship lifted off the ground. Lyra watched the valley shrink, the rocks becoming small shapes, the shelter turning into a tiny the place that held all her pain, all her fear, grew smaller and smaller, until it vanished beneath the clouds. Lyra pressed her face to the window. The sky opened around her, wide and endless. Her heart beat fast, not with fear, but with something new. Hope. Rin watched her expression and smiled. Lyra, your life starts now. She touched his arm lightly. New life? He nodded. A life you choose. A life you deserve. She looked back at the stars. The same stars she had watched alone every night. But tonight, they didn't feel cold. They felt welcoming. They felt bright. And with a small trembling smile, she whispered, Thank you. Human Aaron. Aaron's eyes softened. No, Lyra, thank you. You reminded me what humanity truly is. The ship flew higher, leaving behind the planet that had been her prison for so long. Ahead lay a future full of warmth, safety, learning, and love. Her fate was no longer written by those who abandoned her. Her fate was reforged by the one who stayed. And this was only the beginning of her new story.